record. All right, we're recording now. Thanks for the reminder. I always forget that, it's annoying. Okay, can you guys see? All right, so I'm on this corner, we've cleaned things up. I'm starting with the file that I've uploaded in case you want to start with that file where we sort of turned everything orthogonal to the street grid instead of to the north, south, east, west. We cleaned things up significantly. We made sure that we kept things up carefully on layers. Now we're going through and we're cleaning up these corners for these blocks, adding these sort of rounding them off, adding a fillet. Okay, so I'm going to type in the command F-I-L-L-E-T. I guess fillet is just one L, so you en français, I suppose. All right, there we are. I'm just typing in that command or just hitting enter to repeat it. And it says select the first curve and then select the second curve. So I just click and I click. And then it'll find that sort of where they intersect and it'll draw that arc for us based off the radius parameter that we give it. So I'm going to do this at every major intersection. And what we can do is we can look at some of these alleyways, and some of these alleyways probably want to be rounded and some of them don't. Okay. And so I think that's really important. But I think right now, just to make sure that we're doing it to all of the sort of city street intersections, I think is really important. So I went around and did this block. I'm just going to go through and do this one. Oop. I just did what I said I wasn't going to do, which was do the alleyway there. Okay, this one. Just going to zoom out, see where I'm at. All right, so I'm going down Carson, what looks like, and maybe Bridger here. And just trying to do these row of blocks. If I was more systematic about this, I would have started at the corner or at an edge instead of working from the center outwards or something. But I always do things the hard way, it seems like. But along this corridor, and I try to be systematic about it, right? And maybe go from, go along one street and then the next street over. Okay. Again, that muscle memory, right? I type in the command once, but if I'm going to keep repeating that command, then I can, execute the command, click, click, click. When I'm done, right click, then right click again. That starts the last command again that you use. So it's like just like AutoCAD back in the day. In that regard, you could. You don't have to keep like moving your mouse, your cursor across the screen back and forth a bunch. You can leave it here where you're doing all of these operations and right click to repeat last command. Click, click, right click, 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 right click, 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 right click. Right. Could work out the core muscles in your fingers by this way, I suppose, if you're into fitness. I don't know. Sorry, couldn't. I don't know why I went there. It's morning time. Give me a break. Click, click, right click, 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 right click, 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 right click, 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 right click. And I'm keeping my left hand on that shift button. So near that shift button, because, right, if I use my right mouse button and hold, I tumble, but if I need a pan, I'd hold down the shift key. Now that right mouse button becomes pan, right? So I'm always using my left hand on the keyboard, my right hand on the mouse, because I'm right-handed. It could be reverse if you are used to using a mouse with the left hand. My mom is right-handed, so I'm always conscious of the fact that some people are left-handed. I'm always conscious of the fact that some people are left-handed. Sometimes I take that for granted, I guess. But even this little sliver of a block right there that we see, I'm going to round off that edge here. Just going around, right? Again, just practice, practice, practice. Seems a little rote, but honestly, it doesn't matter how many times you've done this. You always have to do this when you're cleaning these things up and trying to be meticulous about them. Okay, I'm just going around. I might have gotten the major blocks all the way down to except these last couple of rows here. Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Sound effects, of course, are always optional. Click, 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 click. All right, I'm almost done. How are things going on your end? You guys expert on the fillet tool? I'm just making myself hungry.
Good, just not as fast.
Yeah. No worries. Take your time.
It's a little therapeutic, I gotta say. It's kind of fun.
Sometimes yeah, I mean, it's sort of like that dumb exercise, right? But you are accomplishing something, right? So it's like kind of thoughtless, you know, just going through, but then there's a sense of accomplishment as you move through it, right? You can even track that because it's in a grid, so you can sort of see your progress as you go. Doesn't feel like you're, you know, like it's an endless task necessarily, hopefully. All right. Now what's fun about this is once we get to the surfacing part, it'll actually be a lot quicker than this. And I'll show you why. But let's take maybe a few more minutes. Anybody done already? Not quite, huh? All right. Let's see here. Am I missing anything? I don't think so. We're going to turn these city blocks into actual like three-dimensional things. Oh, I know what I wanted to do. I wanted to really look at this carefully. So I'm going to look at sidewalk width and measure that. So while you guys are working, I'm just going to pull up some Google Maps and just look at maybe sort of sidewalk width around our site. So I think that's really important. Let's see here. Use Chrome. That's already up. Maps.google.com. Let's check this out really quickly. Let's head downtown. It's almost as if we were driving there. All right. And I'm looking for Carson. There's 5th Street right here. Yeah. Interesting. Let's turn on that satellite photo. So it looks like it's about the width of a parking stall. If I were to guess, I would say that's maybe 8-ish feet. It always depends, but looks like this one might be different than this one. This one looks a little wider. You'll notice that the radius for a lot of these other sort of, you know, where it's not a major city block might be smaller than, let's say, than a sort of typical city street corner. Let's see here. Is there a way to measure? I thought I used to have. I swear I used to have a measuring tool on here, or maybe that was Google Maps. We could actually draw a line. Well, of course not. But I'll go ahead and I'll just make an assumption of 8 feet.
Google Earth has the measuring tool.
Is it Google Earth?
Yeah.
Why do I not have Google Earth on here? Google Earth. Oh, it's because it's not an app anymore. You just do it through your browser? Oh, I'll be darned. It used to be like a separate app. As I say, I thought I used to, yeah, we were looking at a site over here once. All right, let's see here. North clearly isn't up here, but that's okay. We're looking at this site right here. Oh, I see. There's a little ruler icon. Yeah, okay. Oh, that's helpful. It's in meters. Let's see. Oh, it's over here telling me what the distance is. Yeah, let's go with feet. 8 feet. Yeah, I'm not surprised. All right. Done. Start new. This might be 10 to 11 feet. Interesting. Now, Bridger has a wider sidewalk than Las Vegas Boulevard. 8 and 10. That's what I'll go with. How's the filleting coming? Brent, you done? How's everyone else going?
I just got like one corner left that I'm done.
Okay. Kate, how you doing?
Yeah, that part's not so bad.
Camry? Getting there?
Good, getting there. I hate my
Wow.
mouse. I'm using my trackpad. I need a new mouse.
Oh, yeah, I know. I really don't like mine either. I have the Magic Mouse.
Yeah, same. And
But
so
it's
hard to figure out.
sometimes
like,
it's hard to get the left and right. Sometimes I hit right, but it thinks left.
Right, exactly.
And the scroll ball, the little scroll ball is a little too sensitive sometimes. I try to keep this thing clean, but still it's sort of, you know.
Yeah, so it's just taking me time, but I got it. It is therapeutic. I like it.
Okay.
I could jam out and
So
do this.
one thing I want to show you guys really quickly is I am zoomed in on our site right now, right? So this is Carson Street, and this is Las Vegas Boulevard, at least according to our CAD mapper. And so one of the things I'm going to do is I've taken this outline and I've exploded it, right? So if you take something that's joined together as a closed curve, and you hit the explode button, it looks like this flash, like explode, or you can type in explode, right? It's like the opposite of join, right? Let's say you have a big polyline or polycurve. You've joined, you know, a bunch of line segments and stuff together into one. Explode is like the opposite of join, right? You can explode it back into all of its different segments, right? So here's a line segment, here's a line segment, here's a line segment, here's that arc that it drew for the fillet, right? They're all separate curves now. But I'm just going to offset or move or copy some of these lines. So I measured the sidewalks, and along Las Vegas Boulevard, it looked like if I hit copy or type in copy, I can move this. I have my ortho on. I can move this 8 feet. So I'm just going to type in 8 and hit enter. It's going to ask me which direction do I want to move it 8 feet, right? So I have my ortho on. I'm going to move it that way. Okay. And then 10 feet over here, select the object copy, point to copy from, and then I say 10 feet. All right. Now I'm going to use one more, fill it one more time. Okay, I'm typing in the command. I'm going to set that radius back to 0. When you have a 0 radius, you don't actually make an arc. I'm just going to use it to click, click, and just join those up. I could extend them and then trim them. This is just like one command, set the fillet to 0, click, click, done, right? I love that fillet command because of that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with the boundary of our site here, and make sure that before I start to extrude this and things like that, that we have something accurate here. So I'm going to, again, I said we had 140 feet. Okay, we just offset this by 8 feet from the edge here. Okay, so I'm going to actually move this over a bit and move this edge over a bit in order to reflect that. Move this. I'm going to move it there. Okay, click and click. I was able to snap to the old endpoint, now to the new endpoint. Find that old curve there. Fill it. I'm just doing some basic, CAD drafting, right? Radius of 0, close that up. I'm going to do the same thing down here, close that up. Oops, sorry, right click to repeat fillet, and click, click, close that up. Didn't actually join any of these things together, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm just going to go around and do that. Select them all and hit join. It says you had 6 curves, they've been joined into one closed curve. That again, that always makes me happy, really happy. And then I'm going to go over 75 feet with this line. So copy, I can type in the command copy, or there's the copy button. And I'm just going to, again, with my ortho on, I'm just going to slide this down in the position I want. Type in 75 to be really precise. And saying, okay, move it 75 feet this way, this way, this way, or this way. When I get the right way, I'm just going to click. And then right click to end the command, because I can always copy more if I wanted to. Right, so I know this is really kind of my site right here, 140 by 75, right? So let's say three lots, 25 by 140 each. Put them together, we get 140 by 75. I just wanted the block information to reflect that and adjust that for the sidewalks and things like that before we start to surface it. Okay. I don't necessarily need this line all the way down. I'm just going to trim, type in trim. It's going to ask you for the select the cutting object. So what are you going to trim with? What's the knife here? What intersects the thing you need to trim away? And then click the thing that you want to trim away. So you're always selecting one or more things and entering, or right clicking to enter, then selecting the things to trim one by one if you want. And then when you're done, hit enter. Again, it's these things, it takes a while to get used to. Once you do, it becomes second nature, believe it or not, which is always a handy thing. All right. Again, I just want to sort of keep this bounds. We're not going to really do much with this at the moment, this shape that I drew, except to leave it there so that it's helpful for you guys to understand where the site is and understand where that envelope is, that sort of site boundary. All right. How's the filleting coming? And do I need to address this more before we start doing surfacing? What I just did, were you able to sort of look at that and understand it?
Still working on it.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Perfectly fine. I suspected everyone is, so just wanted to make sure. Let's see, I'm just going to turn my building outlines on again. It says that there's a building here. Huh? No, that's there. There's a building here, right? Yeah. Okay. So there's several things going on here that I see. One is that the assumptions we made about maybe the width of the street was maybe just a little off when it came to this boulevard, because they put 2 center lines down it. So suddenly we have maybe a wider street than we really have. So in those cases, I'm actually going to push this back a bit off the sidewalk, particularly when it comes to where we're located here all the stuff sort of adjacent to our site. I'm going to make sure that that stuff actually matches up. I'm not so worried about, where it doesn't quite match up with the alleyway over here, but our block, our own block here, I want to sort of make sure that stuff matches up. Just sort of, since this is just an academic exercise, we're not going to lose millions of dollars if we're off by a couple of feet here. This just really bugs me. I'm just going to move that on. There we go, like that. Just move these over a bit. Oh, maybe. You can always use the move command, and it's a little easier to move things around without having to sort of drag things around. Sometimes the dragging causes mistakes. But yeah. All right. Just turn that building layer off again. Just wanted to see that. Okay. So here in a minute or so, I want to go over the surfacing one more time with you guys. Okay. But before I do that, while you guys are still working here and there, I wanted to sort of say, in the afternoon, I wanted to talk about precedent studies. But if we need to, we could talk more about site stuff. Because I realize that you have both a site model due and then those 5 axons due, right? And so if we need to take more time this afternoon to make sure that you have a doable set of projects and assignments over the weekend, right? A feasible amount of work to do over the weekend, then we can push the precedents off to the following week. I'm willing to do that. We can spend more of this afternoon on site modeling. Because what I want you to do is to actually, for Tuesdays, to generate an axon of this site model, right, of downtown. And so, the sort of first draft of one, right? So once you get this modeled, then we'll do a make 2D of it, and do a small, quick clay modeling render, white clay model render, with just some soft shadows, composite those things in Illustrator like we were doing before. We won't add trees to this one yet, or benches or other kinds of entourage like street lights and things like that, just yet anyway, or cars. But we could, right, eventually. But again, I don't want you guys to freak out. I know I sort of threw a lot at you this week, especially compared to last week. Last week was kind of, let's follow along together. So I don't want you to feel like you're as I immerse you into more work here and more things, I don't want you to feel completely lost or like you're going to drown in work. But so we can have a discussion about that maybe this afternoon to start off with, how everybody feels, where we're at with the site models, and if we need to do anything related to precedents as far as pushing those back maybe till next week. But otherwise, I want you to, this is a lot of work, but I want you to also be able to do it in a reasonable amount of time and over the weekend, and not feel like you just spent your entire weekend working. Let's see here. All right. How are we doing? How's the filleting coming along? Do I need to show what I did here for this one half of a block?
Right. Yep.
Yeah, you
yep.
want me to go back over that again?
Yeah. I'm trying to get it to connect. I was like, what were our measurements again? That's the part of map.
Yep, no problem. I'm gonna go to top view this time and sort of look at it. Okay, so I have this thing joined together. It's been filleted and stuff. What I did is I exploded it first of all. You can type in explode, right? What that does is it breaks it up into all of the segments and curve and line segments. Then what I used is copy. So I typed in copy quite literally. So here, let me just do this, run through the motions really quickly. And explode this. Now I can sort of take, let's say, this edge along Las Vegas Boulevard, I can type in copy in my keyboard. And I'm going to have ortho on, and I have my object snaps on just for end. I'm just going to click. I'm going to tell it what direction I want to copy this in. I'm going to type in 10 for 10 feet. Right now I can, or sorry, 8 along Las Vegas Boulevard. Sorry, for whatever reason that's different. 8, and click, and then right click when I'm done copying things. Okay, so now I have that one. I'm going to do the same thing with this one along the sort of northern edge of my site. Copy. This time it's going to be 10 feet down. Okay. All right. And now I have, let's see here. I have 2 curves here because I did this before. Right now I have this sort of corner. So now I know, you know, I need to go 75 feet along this direction. I need to go 140 feet along this direction, right? So I'm going to do the 140 feet. I'm going to delete this one because I know that this is where the corner I'm going to start at. I'm going to get my line tool, snap here, and I'm going to just draw. I'm going to go in this direction with my ortho still on. I'm going to say 140 and hit enter, right? It's going to give me 140 feet. I've already adjusted my block for that. So, but don't worry, let's just go ahead and draw this. Now I have this corner set. I have this edge set. I know where 140 feet is across. I can delete this one. And I can just draw another line segment here. That's 75 feet, right? And I click over here to tell it that's where the 75 feet is. Now I can go around and I can say, okay, another 140 feet right there. All right. And then if I need to, you know, let's say what I had was this over here, right? Like my lot was smaller than 140 feet plus the sidewalk. And so I needed to sort of move this over. So I'm going to go ahead and say move. And in my, object snaps, I'm going to turn on intersect and end, right? So I'm going to say select this and move it. I'm going to snap here at this intersection and then snap over here at the end to move that over. Okay. I mean, overall, that makes sense. I suspect, but you know, going through, we're using copy, we're using move. We exploded something that was joined together, and later on we'll rejoin everything. Okay, those are the primary tools we used, and then we drew some lines, so we used the polyline tool again. But once I offset from this street edge and this street edge, and I get this corner, then I'm measuring 140 feet, and that's the depth, 75 feet along the street front, and then I'm making that shape, and then I'm adjusting the block so that the alleyway doesn't start until it gets past my site. I'm going to go ahead and join these back together. I'm going to go around and select this. You can join those. Had 4 curves there. Join these. Let's see here. Let's see if we can get these to join. It says 2 open curves. All right, and I suspect that if I zoom in here, I didn't quite have this lined up. So what I'm going to do is just snap to the end and snap to the end. There we go. Now I should be able to join those together. Join. 1 closed curve. Everything's back in harmony. All right.
Got it.
All right, cool. Very cool. Okay. How's everybody else doing? Are we all filleted yet? Or are we still in adjusted for the site or no? All right, I'm going to move on. I'm going to review this really quickly, how we do the surfacing for the blocks. Okay. And then I can pause and let you guys try some things out. Okay, so the first way we can do this is called extrude. I'll just literally type in the extrude command. It'll automatically select extrude curve for us, I think. So I'm just going to select this closed shape, right? By default, it's going to use the XY plane. It's going to see the XY plane. It's going to use the normal direction to the XY plane. So these our XY plane is the main construction plane by default. So the Z axis becomes the sort of extrusion axis, main extrusion axis. We can always change the direction of that, right? If we wanted to extrude, let's say in this direction, right? We'd extrude in a different direction by giving it a different axis. But let me just go back, extrude. And by default, it's going to give us the Z axis. And I'm just going to make sure that I'm going downwards. And I'm going to type in the distance, 0.5 feet, in other words, 6 inches, 0.5 feet. My keyboard command. It's going to extrude it 0.5 down. Okay, I'll undo that. Again, let's take a look at this command one more time. Not only am I making sure that it's going downwards instead of upwards, but I also make sure that both sides is click to no and that solid is click to yes, right? If I don't have solid on, look what it does, right? I get those sides extruded, but I don't get it doesn't cap the top and the bottom for me into an actual solid, right? So I still have open space here in the middle. Okay, so that's why I always look at these parameters when I'm running this tool, 0.5 and enter, right? So that's one way to do it. That's extrude, right? And extrude is a solid in this case. You go ahead and undo that. Another way we can do this is by, and again, I'm pulling out my curve tools here. Okay, this one right here is the first one that's sort of shaded in blue. Right? That's the first one. That's how we create surfaces. I can click and hold that out. This second one here, where you see a sort of round white curve that's filled in with blue, and then there's a white curve inside. That's like a sort of an island or an opening in the surface. So this is surface from planar curves. So in this case, I can select this planar closed curve, right? As long as it's closed and as long as it's planar, it can fill that in with a planar surface, right? Now, if it's not closed up quite, even if it's close but not quite closed up, it's not watertight, then it's not going to be able to figure out what's inside and outside for us, right? So, and if it's not planar, it's not going to work as well. So then once we have that, we can offset this surface. So we can say offset, oops, it's a different command, offset surface, okay? And it's going to tell us, okay, the distance to offset, right? Solid, yes or no. I'm going to say distance 0.5, solid, yes. Both sides, no. And then I'm going to look at the arrows. It's right now they're pointed down. So it's going to say, okay, I'm going to offset this to the downward direction. I could always flip that and go up. I actually do want to go down. And so then I can say enter, and it did it for me. So it really did, right? There's no right or wrong way to do this, although my personal preference is to use extrude. But let me show you this. You don't actually have to do this block by block, right? If I just say extrude and I zoom out so I can see my entire model, and I select all of this at once, right? I just make sure this is down. I make sure both sides are set to no. I make sure solid is set to yes. And I say 0.5 in the keyboard and hit enter, and they're all extruded for me. Except for this one. This one messed up somehow. Huh, that's weird. Okay. One open curve. This one isn't quite closed. All right, so what happens when you have a curve that isn't quite closed? All right, let's take a look. One way to do this is to zoom way in on those vertices and sort of see if one isn't quite lined up or you snap to the wrong thing, which is likely. To zoom in really close, I can use this zoom window. It's this one with the magnifying glass in the left corner, bottom left corner, with a window or a selection box here. What I can do is I can just select on the area I want to zoom in on and look at that, right? I can see that vertex doesn't line up. That's a problem. Let's see if there's more than one case here. I can zoom in on this one, right? After a while, it's sort of like you can't zoom in any further, right? So I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to close this up best as I can here. I'm going to try to just select this endpoint. Okay, you You can see when I've selected the curve, the endpoints toggled on, but the curve was selected with, in this case, magenta. Yours might look like yellow. Then I actually try to select specifically that point. That point turns magenta. Then I can actually move it. I can snap it and then snap it right back to that point. Okay. Now let's open this one closed curve. Oh, it's a closed curve now. Okay. Now, if you're still having a hard time figuring out where this thing is open, I'm just going to undo that. Okay. Let's say I can't figure it out. And, you know, sometimes it's a real pain. There is a tool here that helps you close up really small gaps in curves automatically. So look for the open ends and it'll just close them with the line segment. You don't have to actually manually do that. Okay. I forget what this is called. Let's see. I have to find it. Let's see where's here it is. Close open curves. And the command is called close curve, right? So here's all the different ways. There's fillets, chamfer, all the ways I can edit curves. This one, close open curves. But if you jot this down, close curve, as a command, that's the one. So select open curve to close. You know, you can actually give it like, you know, close wide gaps with a line if you want to, or just, you know, certain width of tolerance. I'll just select this and it automatically just close that in for me. Okay. At this point, it's probably good enough for me. Right. Okay. So sometimes it happens and you're like, oh, I can't go through all of these shapes and try to figure out where they're all open or not quite closed up. That's one way to sort of automate the process. You know, so it's usually kind of handy. Let me go ahead and save. All right. Similarly, we can do all of the planar curves and all of the offsets all at once, right? So I can do the planar curves or surface from planar curves and select all of these at once and fill them in. Look at that. And I can also sell all the surfaces that I just made, right? And then offset them. So offset surf. And now here's the problem with that. Some of them are going in different direction in the offset. Some are going up and some are going down. So this is why I like extrude. So I'm just going to do extrude all at once. Right. Select all the curves to extrude. That way I can be very precise and make sure that all of them go in the right direction. 0.5. Oops, not 0.3. 0.5. All right. Now when we turn on our street surface, right, you know, it looks like we have like an actual, you know, starting to get a three-dimensional model of this thing, right? Very nice. Got curbs, medians, sidewalks. All right. So again, just to explain what happened over here in this triangular block, right? When I extruded, it didn't actually make it a solid. It couldn't cap the top and the bottom. And that was because it didn't have like a clear inside and outside. There was a little gap and it wasn't quite closed curve. So I went back and made sure that was a closed curve, fixed it. And then just extruded everything all at once. Okay. All right. Then now, if we turn on our building outline layer, we see that there's a bunch of building out footprints to extrude now. Yay. So again, more extruding. So I understand this takes a little bit of time over the weekend. And you know, at this point, let's talk about this for a moment. I'm going to, yeah, let's see. Let's take a look at these footprints and see what we have here, right? There's different building shapes. Yeah. Just gonna move some of the, move some of these so they're on the, actually on the block here. Let me go to top view and do that. So you can see based on our set of assumptions, in some cases we're a little off, right? Depending on the width of the street that we gave CAD mapper to use, because every street's slightly different. And again, the accuracy of somebody tracing all of these buildings in mass back when the GIS file was created. Accuracy sometimes can be pretty dubious in that sense. So I'm just going to go ahead and take stuff that's obviously just a little inaccurate and make it just to look a little more accurate here. Just put these back onto the side off the curb. Okay, here we have an instant like that. This one should be closer. Okay. Try to scoot some of this stuff around so it looks a little better here. Oops, all that stuff along Fremont Street. Let's see here if I can just check these on. So there we go. Yeah. Again, I'm just sort of slowly just cleaning up a few things here. Okay. All right, so let's talk about this and let's look at some of these examples. So for instance, here's our site, and I'm going to go to Google Street View, Google Maps and Google Street View, and let's take a look at our block here. I guess the location's on, so let's see here. Carson. And there we are. Okay, so we have a pawn shop and a few other things here. We have a bank with an ATM. We have this building. I'm not sure what's in there, actually. I don't know what meat is, but we have some decent sized buildings over here with that are mixed use, some like FedEx and other sort of retail and small businesses at the bottom, and then office space up above. Same thing here. All right, so let's go ahead and just look at our block, our immediate area, and let's see what we have here. Just gonna plot the figure here. All right. So we have a low-lying, not too small though, building here that's with a pawn shop. We have an old motel. We have this building that at the time this was done, it was a construction site. We have this building across the street. We have the parking garage across the street. We have that parking lot across that street. We have a hotel here with, as you get further back, right, as it gets offset further from the street, you start to see, actual hotel room towers back beyond. So they sort of set back. Not sure if there was actual setback law at one point in time. Some cities have that, like Manhattan used to have that. Maybe they still do. All right, so let's talk about how we can reasonably guess heights of these buildings. So let's start with this one. All right, so what are some of the hints that we have here? That'll help us sort of determine scale. So let me start. Let's go through this. So we have doorways, and we know approximately what size doorways are, right? We have repeatable modules. So once we start to understand, the height of these, we can maybe start to understand the height of these windows or glass storefronts. Here, the glass storefronts here become easy to sort of deduce, right? We also have bricks. We know standard sizes of bricks, right? We have actually a human here taking a break on a bicycle. We have a human here. Right, so there are some clues here that help us sort of figure these things out. There's another person, right? But what I would say is, let's say that this door is 7 feet tall. Then by, I would say maybe add 2 more feet for the storefront. That gives us 9 feet. Then let's see, we have a sort of sandwich between the ceiling and the floor above. I would say that's maybe 18 inches, right? So we're up to 7 plus 2, that's 9. Maybe up to 10 plus another foot. Let's go with 11, right? Then we have another sort of 9 feet of storefront. So let's go with 20. Now let's add another 18 inches or so for a roof. This actually has quite an interesting cornice, I guess you might say, that sort of on the backside is basically a parapet, right? So let's add maybe 2 or 3 feet, because it has the signage and things like that to it. So maybe we say 25 feet, 24, 25 feet range, right? Now, again, I'm just sort of ballparking it here. I didn't really write it down. But to me, that would kind of be what I would think of. And here's my thought process, right? I mean, it's easy to say, but let's talk about, oh yeah, the chat disappeared. Let me try to bring up the chat. Oh, there's I just drew a line. Bike, yep, okay. So, sorry, I wasn't paying attention to the chat. Clear all drawings. But let me just sort of draw like the sort of logic here, right? So if we think about this, right, we have street grade, we have curb and sidewalk grade. In this case, we actually have a bump up, another further bump up. But let's just let's ignore that for the time being. Let me just actually draw this down here, right? We have grade, bump up 6 inches, sidewalk. But if we think about this, we have a sort of 7 feet of doorway, right? So if we think about this as 7 feet, right? We have that the glass up above that. Let's think about this as being 9 feet above grade. We have, basically that sort of sandwich between the floor above and the ceiling below, right? Let's add another 18-ish inches or so. So that puts us up to maybe about 10 and a half or 11 feet. Let's just go with like 11 feet maybe, right? Another 9 feet. So that puts us up to 20, right? And then we have basically a cornice that becomes a parapet with a roof, a flat roof that sort of just slowly slopes to a roof drain somewhere in the center of the building, right? And then we have signage out here, right? And so let's say that's maybe 3 to 4 feet. So that puts us around 23 to 24, maybe even 25 feet, right? So that's how I'm sort of thinking about this in sort of a cross section, right? So interpreting the photograph, I could count all the courses of bricks. It's a lot of bricks to count, but still you're going to be filling in details in between, right? The masonry. Let's look at it from the side. Maybe the side actually gives us. Is the side masonry? Let's see. Because we have this sort of, no, not really. It looks like it's concrete maybe. Yeah, so that's not going to be helpful at all, right? Let's see what it looks like on this side. Yeah, there's masonry there. It looks like block that's been painted a bazillion times. It's a little hard to make out, but you could count the courses to give you, if you're trying to settle on, how tall this thing is, right? So that's another way of thinking about this. There's that bank we talked about. And there's the parking lot for the bank, and here's the ATM drive-through for the bank, I guess. Just a little squat building, right? Again, here, if you can maybe get a sense of, like, for instance, counting the tiles, right? The stone tiles here. These tiles might be custom, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But they look like they're about 12 by 12 because that's probably about a 7-ish foot door. So if you go up and count these, now suddenly I have a way to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. 35 feet at the lowest. And then this one probably goes up, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 6. So 35 feet over here, 40, 41 feet over here, right? Depending on how detailed you want to get with the massing for this one. It is on our block, so maybe you do get a little detailed with it, right? Again, you can sort of see what the relative heights are of, let's say, the corner here filled with glass, right, versus the more solid massing over here. Here's this building with the meat logo. This one's interesting because they actually like project light across this one at night. Right. But again, don't discount these doorways. This is a custom door. It's really super tall, right? This is a standard door. I don't know why they put it right there. And then, of course, you have at some point in time, I don't know, we'll see. It's always nice to walk these places and talk about them architecturally, but you know, but since we're remote, I guess. Right. So again, you can start to make guesses on, you know, educated guesses, I would say, right? If this is 8 feet, these panels, then 8, 16. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That takes us up to 48 feet plus the sort of hat on top of this thing. Like a sort of cornice at the top, which again is concealing the sort of parapet and flat roof up above. Let's talk about the things across the street here. Again, we have modularity. So if you can make a reasonable, accurate guess about this glass, right, then suddenly we can start to fill in the gaps. You know, it's sort of like how many of these make up one of these, right? It looks like this width is, or sorry, this width is like 1.5 of these, you know, so you can start to, I think, again, really quickly just sort of sketch these out, make a reasonable assumption. It's not like I'm going to hold a ruler to your drawings or anything, but at the same time, that, you know, I think you guys can do this, and it's all about, I think, observing, right, and sort of understanding architecture in a different way, anyway. So I actually really like this exercise, even though it's kind of a pain in the rear. You know, again, 7-foot doors, right? And so again, if you can start to understand the modularity of the glass, then perhaps there's a way to start to count modules, right? And again, this one, you sort of see a sort of street front here, right? That goes out to the corner. And then when it comes to making a sort of higher block of office up top, it sort of sets back off the street. Seems to be a pretty familiar pattern. You see it all over the place. Once you start getting this far away, you don't actually have to add any of this detail. I would just sort of extrude the massing, okay? But when we're talking about the sort of D block right here, like our own block, I would say, you know, model this taller sort of stair tower, you know, in relationship to the sort of overall massing here, right? Put that little hat on somehow, or at least make it look, you know, simplified that way. Parking garage. This is interesting, right? It exposes the staircase here. And the staircase can actually help us understand the scale. I'm not saying you have to count all the stairs, but you could actually count each step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, in order to understand, right? I mean, the first floor is a little taller than all the other floors, right? So if you understood that the height of the first floor and the height of the second floor, well, the third floor and fourth floor are the same as the second floor, right? Okay, so you're starting to understand there's hints and clues here. And if you can pick up on them, it's actually not too hard to make a reasonable assumption, ballpark assumption for the heights of some of these things, right? And you're going to make the assumption for stuff even over here, right? Again, you know, and I look at, let's say, the D hotel. Let's see what the massing looks like over here, right? Just a big mass, right? Let me see. Oh, it's right over here. There we go. See if these things can live together on the same screen. Oh yeah, sorry. I was like trying to navigate Google Maps as if it was Rhino. That did not work. That was not going well. Okay. Let's see what we have here. I'm trying to compare this L shape that we have, right? And so, you might even have to tweak this, right? Some of these shapes, like I look at this, right? This is the Ogden building, right? Let's take a closer look at the Ogden, if I can. Sorry, it's a real trip to go back from sort of pinning with my right mouse button to just sort of clicking with my left mouse button here to sort of navigate around. There's the Denny's. This is a 2-story Denny's with a wedding chapel inside. Only in Las Vegas. This is 4th Street. I go down Fremont. Well, let me go down Fremont to the pedestrian part, huh? Okay, that's all right. Let's go down Carson. I guess. It's kind of a pain, but whatever. I'll live. I feel like we're on a walking tour of Las Vegas, downtown Las Vegas at the moment, right? So this mid-rise here is the Ogden, right? And so what you think you'll find is that, this footprint actually has several shapes in it, right? One that sort of looks at the entire site and would be extruded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 floors, right? But then after the 6th floor, 7 all the way up to this height, it sort of does a U shape, right? So that would actually be extruded up taller. I'm not saying you have to add any of this detail, right? But you could actually give it, the sort of setbacks in the massing that some of these things actually kind of deserve anyway, right? So here's this sort of parking lot / promenade back behind. If you go to, let's say, Park, I think this used to be called Park, this restaurant, right? They actually, you can sit outside it back here. They just put a big hedgerow along that fence to sort of, so you don't see the alleyway, right? Fremont Street, again, you can sort of see lower line stuff versus taller stuff, right? There's that building. Anybody know what this building is? What it's used for? I honestly couldn't tell you. It's a pretty introverted building, right? I mean, it's just like barren on the outside. There's a mural. At least they took one of the blank walls and put something on it, right? Okay, there's a bar. Oh, there's a bar. Yeah, it could be, right? I mean, it's weird how there's like no, I guess there's windows back there. Those louvers maybe. But I think you're right. I think there are businesses in some of these places. There is one here. I think there's a bar, pub or something or as well. Cocktail room. Right. Why is that blurred out? It's weird. Spire Theater. Okay. All right. So that's the next step, is to start to go through this and extrude all of these, right, to the appropriate sort of height for the massing. And then to go to all of these things immediately adjacent to our site and maybe add a little more detail to them, right? Or at least to better understand, or at least to better understand maybe even just massing detail, right? And I would say that, to me, it's a good practice when it comes to just sort of modeling and coming up with, or seeing like, to me, I want you to try to model this stuff because I think you're going to run into all kinds of problems, and you're going to try to fix it yourself or come up with solutions yourself, or you might ask me, right? So, this is where I'm going to stop for the time being. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording.